In the bustling spaceport of New Horizon, Captain Alara Voss leaned against the sleek hull of her ship, the Star Weaver. Her keen eyes scanned the crowd, a habit born from years of interstellar travel and countless close calls. The iridescent scales of the Mutterkrecks caught her attention, their serpentine bodies weaving through the throng of humans and other alien species. Ambassador Zixathar, the lead diplomat of the Mutterkreck delegation, slithered towards Alara. His forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air as he approached. "Captain Voss," he hissed, his translator converting the sibilant sounds into crisp English. "We appreciate you agreeing to this unconventional meeting." Alara nodded, her hand instinctively brushing against the hidden compartment in her jacket where her backup blaster resided. "Always happy to foster interspecies understanding, Ambassador. What can I do for you?" Zixathar's multifaceted eyes gleamed with curiosity. "We've observed something fascinating about humans. No matter the situation, you always seem to have an additional weapon at your disposal. This talent intrigues us." A wry smile played on Alara's lips. "Ah, you've noticed our penchant for preparedness. It's not so much a talent as it is a deeply ingrained survival instinct." The ambassador's scales rippled with interest. "Could you elaborate? We Mutterkrecks rely solely on our natural defenses and standard-issue weaponry." Alara gestured towards a quieter corner of the spaceport. As they moved, she subtly adjusted her stance, ensuring she had clear access to the vibroblade concealed in her boot. "You see, Ambassador, humans have a long history of adapting to survive. We've learned to see potential weapons in everything around us." She picked up a nearby stylus, twirling it in her fingers. "This, for instance, its primary function is for writing, but in a pinch, it could be used to stab an attacker or short-circuit an electronic lock." Zixthar's eyes widened. "Fascinating. And this mindset applies to all humans?" Alara nodded. "To varying degrees, yes. Some are more adept than others, but it's a part of our nature. We're always assessing our surroundings, looking for advantages." She began pointing out various items in the spaceport, explaining their potential uses as weapons. "That maintenance droid? Its arm could be detached and used as a club. The cleaning solution it's using? Highly corrosive if sprayed in someone's eyes. Even that potted plant over there, the soil could be thrown to blind an attacker, and the pot itself makes an excellent bludgeoning tool." The Mutterkreck ambassador's scales had taken on a pale hue, a sign of astonishment in his species. "This is overwhelming. How do you keep track of all these possibilities?" Alara shrugged. "We don't, not consciously. It's more of an instinct, honed by millennia of evolution and centuries of conflict. We're always subconsciously cataloging our surroundings." She led Zixathar towards the Star Weaver, continuing her impromptu lesson. "In space, we've had to get even more creative. Vacuum-sealed emergency kits can be used as flails. Plasma cutters for hull repairs double as deadly close-quarter weapons. Even seemingly innocuous items like space rations can be weaponized. Their dense, compressed nature makes them surprisingly effective projectiles in zero-G environments." As they boarded the ship, Alara gave Zixathar a tour, pointing out hidden compartments and dual-purpose tools throughout. The Mutterkreck's amazement grew with each revelation. "This is truly remarkable, Captain," Zixathar said, his voice a mix of awe and concern. "But surely not all humans are so combat-ready?" Alara paused, considering her words carefully. "It varies, of course, but even the most peace-loving humans often carry some form of protection. It might be as simple as a personal alarm or a can of pepper spray. The principle remains the same: always have a backup plan." She led him to the ship's galley, picking up a simple butter knife. "Take this, for example." Alara noticed the growing unease in Zixathar's posture. She decided to address it directly. "Ambassador, I sense your discomfort. Let me assure you, what I've shown you so far is merely, let's call it level 1 of human preparedness." Zixathar's scales rippled with shock. "Level 1, you mean there's more?" Alara nodded solemnly. "Oh yes, much more. In fact, we categorize our preparedness into 15 distinct levels, each more complex and comprehensive than the last." The ambassador's tail twitched nervously. 15 levels? That's incredible. Can you tell me more? I can, Ilara said, but I must warn you, it gets increasingly intense. Are you sure you want to proceed? Zixathar hesitated, then nodded firmly. For the sake of understanding your species better, yes. Ilara took a deep breath. Very well. Level 2 involves more specialized hidden weapons. Devices disguised as everyday objects. Pens that shoot darts, belts with hidden garrots, shoes with retractable blades. She continued through the levels, each more astonishing than the last. Level 3 covered improvised explosives and traps. Level 4 delved into biological and chemical weapons concealed in seemingly harmless containers. As they progressed, Zixathar's amazement turned to a mix of awe and horror. Level 8 introduced nanite weapons that could be carried in one's bloodstream. Level 10 covered weaponized cybernetic implants. By the time they reached Level 13, which involved manipulating quantum entanglement for instantaneous weapon deployment across vast distances, Zixathar was visibly shaken. "Captain," he said, his voice trembling, "this is beyond anything we could have imagined. How long would it take for a species to develop such capabilities?" Ilara's expression was grave. "Honestly, Ambassador, for humans, this mindset is so deeply ingrained that it's almost instinctual. We've been honing these skills for millennia. For another species to reach this level of preparedness, it could take countless generations, if it's even possible at all." Zixathar's scales had paled to an almost translucent state. "And the final levels?" Ilara shook her head. "I'm sorry, Ambassador, but levels 14 and 15 are classified. Even discussing their existence is pushing the boundaries of what I'm allowed to share." The Mutterkreck ambassador was silent for a long moment, processing everything he'd learned. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Captain Voss, I came here seeking to understand human military capabilities. I now realize I've only scratched the surface. This knowledge will significantly impact our diplomatic relations moving forward." Ilara nodded, understanding the weight of the moment. "I hope this doesn't alarm your people, Ambassador. Our preparedness isn't about aggression, it's about survival. We've learned the hard way that it's better to have options and not need them than to need them and not have them." As they made their way back to the spaceport, Zixathar seemed lost in thought. Before parting, he turned to Ilara one last time. "Captain, one final question, if I may. With all these levels of preparedness, all these hidden weapons and tactics, do humans ever feel truly safe?" Ilara's expression softened, a hint of vulnerability showing through her professional demeanor. "That's a profound question, Ambassador. The truth is, our constant preparedness is both a blessing and a curse. We're ready for almost anything, but that readiness comes from a place of perpetual vigilance. Safety, true safety, is something we're always striving for but rarely achieve." As Zixathar slithered away, visibly shaken by the revelations, Ilara watched him go, her hand unconsciously brushing against the hidden compartments in her uniform. She knew that the Mutterkreck ambassador had glimpsed only a fraction of humanity's true capabilities, and that knowledge would forever change the dynamics between their species. In the vast, often hostile expanse of the universe, humanity's unparalleled preparedness was both their greatest strength and their heaviest burden. As Ilara boarded the Starweaver, she couldn't help but wonder what new challenges awaited them in the stars, and what new levels of readiness they might need to develop. As the years passed, the Mutterkrecks became increasingly fascinated with human preparedness. They dedicated significant resources to studying and attempting to replicate the human knack for backup weapons and improvised tools. Progress was slow and often frustrating, but they persevered. One day, nearly a decade after the initial meeting between Captain Ilara Voss and Ambassador Zixathar, a breakthrough finally occurred. Krizix, a young Mutterkreck scientist, had been obsessively studying human behavior and psychology. He'd spent countless hours practicing with various objects, trying to see them as potential weapons or tools. His fellow Muttercrecks thought him eccentric, even a bit mad, but Kriesix was determined. During a routine diplomatic function aboard a human space station, Kriesix found himself face-to-face with Captain Voss once again. His scales rippled with excitement as he approached her. "Captain Voss!" he exclaimed, his translator barely keeping up with his enthusiasm. "I've done it! I've reached level 2 of human preparedness!" Ilara raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Is that so? That's quite an achievement, Kriesix. Care to demonstrate?" Puffing up with pride, Kriesix reached for the ornate collar around his neck, a traditional Muttercreck accessory. "Observe, Captain. This collar isn't just decorative. It's actually a cleverly disguised weapon." With a flourish, Kriesix attempted to remove the collar, intending to show how it could be used as a garrote. However, in his excitement, he had forgotten a crucial detail. Muttercrecks don't have hands. His serpentine body writhed and twisted as he tried to manipulate the collar, but to no avail. Ilara watched, struggling to maintain her composure as Kriesix's demonstration devolved into an awkward spectacle. Other attendees at the function began to stare, a mix of confusion and amusement on their faces. After several minutes of fruitless struggle, Kriesix finally gave up, his scales flushed with embarrassment. I seem to have encountered a slight technical difficulty," he mumbled. Unable to contain herself any longer, Ilara burst into laughter. It was a warm, genuine laugh, not mocking, but filled with a strange mix of admiration for Kriesix's determination and amusement at the absurdity of the situation. "Oh, Kriesix," she said, wiping tears from her eyes, "I appreciate your effort, I really do. But perhaps we should focus on finding preparedness methods that are more anatomically suitable for Muttercrecks. I mean, us humans have evolved differently. I love the effort you possessed. Take that enthusiasm and keep in mind your species' abilities and physiology, and you could have a good chance at this." Kriesix's embarrassment slowly faded as he joined in the laughter. "Perhaps you're right, Captain. Though I must say, I've never felt more human than I do right now, prepared for the wrong situation and laughing at myself for it." As the laughter subsided, Ilara patted Kriesix gently on what passed for his shoulder. "You know, Kriesix, I think you've stumbled upon a crucial aspect of human nature that goes beyond mere preparedness, our ability to laugh at ourselves and learn from our mistakes. In a way, you've reached a level of humanity that many humans struggle to achieve." Thinking to herself, only if he knew our full extent of our powers, which comes from being an avatar in this universe, plugged in, able to live out lives, in every sense of the word, and could use even the ground as a weapon, which is what level 15 was all about, she decided not to reveal this detail, as this would truly melt their brains, best not to pop the bubble. From that day forward, the Muttercrecks took a different approach to understanding human preparedness. Instead of trying to replicate it exactly, they focused on adapting the core principles to their own physiology and culture. And Kriesix, he became something of a celebrity among his people, not for mastering human preparedness, but for embodying the human spirit of perseverance, creativity, and the ability to find humor in failure. As for his collar, it became a popular joke among both humans and Muttercrecks, a symbol of the sometimes awkward but always entertaining journey of interspecies understanding.